Korea, you'll be surprised to know, is considered small compared to another bigger, two other scandals before the Scorpene submarines to Malaysia. One was the Karachi case, in which at least 11 French engineers were killed. At first they tried to put the blame on Al-Qaeda, and later the truth came out that it was actually the killing of these engineers because of the failure of the French side to pay the commissions that was promised to them. Okay, and so it became a very big case in France. It still is, but the case in the French courts has gone on much longer, of course, than our Malaysian Scorpene Alton 2-year case. Press conference is organized by SWARAM, as you know, a human rights organization in Malaysia that has been around for at least 20 years. Our main work, of course, is human rights. Through the years, we have also taken up cases involving environmental protection, communities' rights. 10 years ago, we came up with we had a conference and a publication called People Before Profits. It's still available in SWARAM. And this year, we published a book called Questioning Arms Spending in Malaysia, because we are very concerned that out of all the policies in Malaysia, perhaps the least questioned, we always question the corruption and everything involved, but we very seldom question the policies themselves, the amount of defense procurements that are involved. And it's interesting that at the moment we are all making a big fuss about the food subsidies. You'd be interested to know that the amount of the food subsidies, which is about 700 million ringgit, is actually the cost, almost the cost of the commissions that we are trying to chase in SWARAM. What we call the submarine commissions. Commissions involved in the submarines deal, the French Scorpene submarines deal, and also because the commissions seem to be submarine, unseen by most people, and which amounts to something like 500 million ringgit, which is about 100 million euros. And the Scorpene submarine deal happens to be the most expensive arms procurement to date. They're more expensive than the Hornets, they're more expensive than the Sukhois, they're more expensive than the Eurocopters, and even the recent offshore patrol vessels. Because each one alone, we bought two Scorpene submarines, and an Acosta training submarine thrown in, all for about 3.5 billion each. And if you put in the Exocet missiles and other missiles, and if you put in the maintenance fees, the hardware itself just costs 7 billion in total. And I think the maintenance is an annual burden that we have to bear of another billion. And so, apart from the concern to Malaysian taxpayers involving the commissions, as much as 500 million, there was also involved a very serious case of a grisly murder of the Altan Tuya, the Mongolian translator, which this country has seen the case pursued in the courts, and we've seen 2 people charged and sentenced. But as for the motive behind the murder of Altan Tuya, nobody is the wiser in this country. And so it happens that the French, because the company that sold submarines to us, the Scorpene submarines, happened to be DCM, a French state company, defense company. Okay, France, I don't know, most people know, exports something like 60% of the exports is made out of arms. So the manufacture of submarine is a big thing to the French. But the murder of Altan Tuya, you'll be surprised to know, is considered small compared to another bigger 2 other scandals before the Scorpene submarines to Malaysia. One was the Karachi case, in which at least 11 French engineers were killed. At first they tried to put the blame on Al-Qaeda, and later the truth came out that it was actually the killing of these engineers because of the failure of the French side to pay the commissions that was promised to them. Okay, and so it became a very big case in France. It still is, but the case in the French courts has gone on much longer, of course, than our Malaysian Scorpene Altan Tuya case. In the process of which some evidence has already emerged. Besides Karachi case, DCN also sold some frigates to Taiwan, in which at least 2 people killed. At least 2, a father and a son. The father was a lawyer who was pursuing the case. Okay. And so now this Altan Tuya Scorpene Malaysian case is relatively new. Although we are reaping some of the advantages of the earlier cases. And so already in 2008, it was already revealed that there were some hidden commissions from the evidence that was produced in court on the Karachi case. Evidence of hidden commissions. And what is important in the French case is that the OECD came out with a policy on such commissions, which are considered to be corruption. And that came out in 2002, I think. Okay? And so there is already some contradiction in the testimony that we have in the Malaysian Parliament. Because in the Malaysian Parliament, the government told the MPs that this 500 million so-called maintenance fee service that was paid to Perimaker, the local company, was actually paid by the French. And what has emerged from the Karachi case is that this could not have been, because to admit so would have been to infringe the OECD policies, and then DCN and the officials would have been prone to corruption charges. And so further to that, it has emerged that it was not just that 100 million euros that was the commission paid. There were at least 2 other commissions, one for 30 million and another one for a smaller 2.4 million. And this is all coming out because Sorum in 2009 applied to this French judicial system, which is quite different from the British and the Malaysian system, because this is considered an inquisitorial system as opposed to an adversarial system, which means that their judge in France has the power to initiate investigations. And that's very interesting, that something we don't see in this country or in the British system. And this is what we're relying on. And it's interesting that we Malaysians, having seen the 500 million commission just being hushed up in this country, and the murder of Alton Tuya being hushed up in this country after the sentencing of 2 people, are now having a second breather in the French system. And that is what we are here today to do. Because we have already gone through this first stage of an inquiry stage in which the prosecution has been gathering evidence to present to the French judge. And the second stage, we believe, is about to start. Because they seem to be confident that we have collected enough evidence to proceed with the next stage. It's interesting, of course, that yesterday, Zahid, the Minister of Defense, has very gallantly stood up and said he's prepared to testify in a French court. You know, this is remarkable. we hope it gets, if he does that, you know. And he says it depends on the cabinet, and we wonder what the cabinet will tell him to do. To go to France and testify or not? Because we hope that when he testifies, he'll be testifying on behalf of the Ministry of Defense, and on behalf of, at the time, the Defense Minister was, of course, the President Prime Minister, Najib. And so what will be interesting, but at least in the next Parliament, which I believe will open next month, isn't it? The next Parliament is opening next month. The Defense Ministry, the government, will at least have to clarify what has come out recently in France, which said that it could not have been the French government that paid the 500 million commission stroke maintenance fee, whatever you call it. And it had to be the Malaysian government that paid Karimeka. Okay, so at least we expect one clarification from the Ministry of Defense in the coming Parliament. If he doesn't mind, he could clarify tomorrow. This press conference is basically to launch a legal fund. The French lawyers, or the French lawyer, one of them, will come in July, where we will hold a briefing session for the people and a fundraising dinner, which Fadia will elaborate on this campaign. Okay, so I thank you today for coming, and I hope Malaysians through Swaram and the French courts will get to the truth of the 500 million commission and the motives for the murder of Alton Tuya. Thank you.
My name is Cynthia Gabriel. I'm one of the directors of Swaram. Together with Dr. Kwa and with Fadia, Secretariat members of Swaram, I'm actually here to talk to you about something that's really hotting up, at least for those of us who ardently log on to the internet and read the news on online media. I'm saying this because what we're talking to you today, which is the case of the sale of the submarines, the sale of the two Scorpenes, have seen very little space or highlight in the mainstream media. How many of you are here from the mainstream media? Can you just put up your hands? Mainstream, print, newspaper. Everyone's from online?
Even the Chinese press also?
Okay, so it looks like we're going to see even more things exploding on the online media, on the new media. And we hope that the mainstream media will actually catch on eventually, because a news like this cannot be ignored for too long. Up to the point that yesterday our defense minister seemed to find it necessary to actually respond before things get even bigger. And we're standing here before you, sitting here actually before you, at a very pivotal moment, because we're here to tell you today that the case that we filed at the French courts, as Dr. Kwa said, in December 2009, has actually progressed along, even to our surprise, that it has been able to move to the next stage, which is the open court in France. Now this initial stage is the inquiry stage, where the prosecution actually does its investigations in a manner which is closed. And once they find there is sufficient evidence to take the case to the next level, then they would actually appoint a judge and an investigating officer and a judicial judge to actually have an open trial. And in the open trial is where witnesses can be subpoenaed, and documents that we have actually tried to obtain would be actually be made available to Swaram and be made public to Swaram and to interested groups. So it's actually very, very important that we're here today to tell you that the case that we filed, the case is very specific on the 114 million euro, which was the commissions that was paid out to this company called Perimeka. And we know that Perimeka is the daughter company of Ombak Laut, in which we know that Abdul Razak Baginda's wife is one of the major shareholders. So herein lies the link between the death of Altantuya and the payout of the commissions. Okay, and I'm also able to tell you a couple of things that came out as a result of the findings. Although the findings are still not yet made completely formal and public, through our lawyers in France, we were also informed that amazingly, but maybe not surprisingly, it wasn't just the 114 million euro that was the money being investigated. But in the course of investigations, they had actually discovered another 2 commissions paid out in relation to the sale of this deal. The first is 30 million euro. And this was paid out to Thales, which is a shipping company. Yeah, it's spelled Thales. And another 2.5 million euro that had gone out to unknown recipients. And these payments were actually made through very dubious means. With globalization, anything is possible. They actually chose a very unknown Eastern European country called Malta. Have you heard of Malta? Apparently it's a nice place to... Mediterranean, whatever, but on this side. Malta was chosen because it is generally small, unknown, and more like a holiday destination than any other thing. Where they had appointed a company called GIFEN, G-I-F-E-N, to actually make the payouts to all these different persons. And in these payouts, we also shockingly discovered that there were air tickets that were paid out for trips that were made by Abdul Razak Baginda and Altantuya, and perhaps even more individuals. Now, the other individuals that are being investigated are still unknown, so we're unable to give you more names at this stage, but the investigations are ongoing. And more information will be surfaced, as our lawyers have advised us, but this is what we can tell you as of now. And this is what we can also tell you is that, the Malaysian case, as Dr. Paul pointed out, is linked with the Taiwan and the Karachi case, because the same individuals from DCNS, the shipping company in France, are involved in actually making deals and selling arms to third world countries. So the multinational company in France is actually looking for ways in which they can negotiate dishonest deals, or deals which are very profitable for them with third world countries. And this is what the case is really about. It's a case of corruption, it's a case of mismanagement of funds, and it is a case of misuse of Malaysian and French people's taxpayers' money. So it is really about our money that's being used to service a system of procurement which is very closed and which is very secret. So at this stage, we are about to move into the open court level, where Swaram has actually gone through the process of applying for an instruction judge. That's how it's termed in the French system. An instruction judge, once appointed, will actually be able to have the mandate to open up the investigations and subpoena witnesses and so on. So we welcome Minister Zahid's comments that he's willing to be probed because there's been really no movement on this side. And you know that there have been many calls from various quarters, not just Swaram but many other groups, asking, demanding and insisting that MECC open up investigations into these allegations. But as of today, MECC has been silent. There's been no investigations that have been opened up on this. And the case and the murder of Altantuya has been closed off very abruptly. And even parliamentarians in parliament, when questions are asked, are only given short, incomprehensible answers, which are sometimes very inconsistent. Even when it comes to the amount of the purchase of the submarines, there's so much inconsistency in that regard. And that was one of the reasons that prompted Swaram, because one of the favorite questions from the press is why did Swaram take the case to the French courts? And the reason is because the avenues here seem to be all blocked, because there are important persons, important names that could be involved, and we don't even see MECC taking the initiative to investigate such serious misappropriation of funds. So we took the case to the French court, and one of the other motivations is, of course, that we would be able to access information such as the contracts of the sale between DCNS and the Malaysian government. Here we are bound by the Official Secrets Act. And so it's very, very important that Malaysians know, and Malaysians have the right to be informed of what kind of defense procurement, what kind of policies are in place, how our taxpayers' money are being used, and what it is being used for. So the French case is actually helping build the momentum for the need for greater information, for the need for greater clarification for us Malaysians. So we hope that the Malaysian government, Defence Ministry, and even former defence ministers at the time that the submarine was purchased will testify in the French court when the time comes, because the truth is not yet known, and we all deserve to know the truth. So we, at this stage, would actually suggest that there is greater interest also taken up by members of the media to start investigating and to start writing about this whole issue, including the larger issues of defense procurement. So we're also at the stage that we've reached a situation where we need to raise funds for the legal case in the courts over there. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this press conference, is because we want to tell you that we're opening up a legal fund called Ops Scorpene, and we'll be organizing several events, as Dr. Kwa mentioned, and I'm going to leave the details to Fadia. So we need the support of every single Malaysian, rich, not so rich, even poor, even a ringgit, 2 ringgit, everything counts, because it's really about us taking an interest in wanting to find out details and wanting to find out the truth. So we will be welcoming our lawyers from France, a very, very senior, very well-known lawyer. His name is William Bourdon. William, and spelled Bourdon, B-O-U-R-D-O-N. I think his name is also in the press statement that's given to you. He will be coming in July, and he will be speaking to the Malaysian public on all the details of the French legal system, where our case is at the present moment, how it's going to progress, what kind of details may be available by that time, and so on. So he will be speaking at some of the events that we will be organizing. And together with all Malaysians, we hope that this event will actually generate funds, of course, and generate a lot more interest on the whole issue of transparency and accountability. Thank you.
In light of this new development, we are in need of funds to cover the litigation costs of the case in the French court. So Suaram will be organizing a fundraiser. We're going to have 2 events for this purpose, and the first event would be on the 21st July 2011. We will have a high tea in Penang, where civil society organizations, the public, the lawyers can be together in this event to discuss more about the case, and details of this event will be updated on our website, which is still work in progress, and we will keep you updated of the tickets, the price of tickets, and how we're going to be involved in this high tea event. And the second event would be held in KL on the 23rd July 2011, where we're going to have a dinner, a fundraising dinner, together with the lawyer. His name is William Bordon. So we are opening this event to everyone. Tickets can be bought through Suaram, and we will provide the information as soon as possible on our website. And donations can also be made to Suaram through Suaram Inisiatif Sembilan Berhad. The details, as you can see on the whiteboard, the account number is there, and it can also be made online. Malaysians are encouraged to be part of this movement to collect funds for this case to move in the French court, because it's very important for us to be part of this movement in order for us to find out what is the truth of this case, because it involves the taxpayers' money, it involves somebody's life, and we have to be involved in this very, very vital role in finding out the truth. So the 2 events will be held in July, and we will keep everyone updated of the info as to the tickets, as to the details of the high tea in Penang. But the date is confirmed on the 21st, and also the dinner in KL on the 23rd.
Thales is also a shipbuilder that has joint cooperations with DCNS. And they were involved in part of the sale of the submarines to Malaysia. The first level is closing off now, the inquiry level. And then the application for the instruction judge has already been made at the end of March 2011. And it will take, we were informed by the lawyers, it could take anything between the next few weeks, or a couple of months before the judge is actually appointed, because all these involve bureaucratic measures, and also because I think the case of DCNS in the French political landscape is becoming increasingly important, and there are dynamics within France that are actually trying to push for the case to be sped up, and some trying to hold it back, and so on. So we're hoping that with all the bureaucracy, red tape and everything, we would be able to actually get the judge appointed before the lawyer comes to Malaysia. That's a speculative, hopeful target, but nothing is for certain yet.
Yeah, I think as far as the press is concerned, there are certain realities that we have to face. It's not a question of, well, the French judicial system is so efficient and whatever. There are some political realities. The Karachi case, for example, happened quite a few years ago, at least 10 years ago. And what is involved at the time was the commissions were happening during that time when Sarkozy himself wasn't president yet. He was just second to, what's his name? Somebody else. And when after the election at that time, Chirac came in and stopped those payments. And that is why the Karachi case happened. That's why those French engineers were killed. So we can see that now, in the French elections that are coming up next year, there are the press in France and the political process and the judicial system. They're all that speed in which all these things are happening is important in that sense, because of these political factors. You can imagine the press being very interested in these things and pushing for the judicial process to go on as soon as possible. And so in this country, we hope that the press will work in a similar way. You know, be inspired, as one of the mainstream press like to say, be inspired by these kind of happenings in the world. The main object in the French case is that we're trying to find through DCN, on the French side, they're trying to find through their own state company, their own company, DCN. DCNS is a local subsidiary, DCN. Okay. If we can discover as a matter of fact that these commissions were paid to specified persons, for example, that's already a case one. You know? Of course, if the minister from here would like to go over and testify, that's even better. But I think they can from the DCN side, they can get to the truth there. And then it's up to the ministry here, and the minister here, and the Prime Minister to say what he has to say. You know, they've been found out. It happens that the commissions were paid.
In the last Parliament session, the Defence Ministry answer to the MPs that asked this question was that it was DCN that actually paid out the 114 million euros to Perimeter. So Malaysian taxpayers' money was not involved. But in the inquiry, the findings suggested it was not DCN that actually paid out the 114 million euros. And so who was it that paid out the 114 million euros? And why is it that a company like GFEN in Malta is actually being used to make payments? And I think we need to go back to the OECD convention, because France had already signed the OECD convention, which means it would be illegal for French officials to receive commissions of any kind through the sale and procurement of arms. Or to give, both ways. Huh? So that's why they've gone through a roundabout way. And the question mark on who actually paid out the 114 million euros to Perimeter remains. Is it the Malaysian government? Is it some other body? We are still finding out. I'm not saying it's the Malaysian government. I'm saying the findings are suggesting that it could be coming from Malaysian sources. It is not necessarily any evidence that has clearly showed that it's coming from DCN. So the main message actually really is that we need a domestic inquiry. We need a Malaysian inquiry. We need MECC to seriously take it up and not selectively take up cases which are political in nature and so on. In this case, the case has been going on for years. There's been no action from MECC. We demand transparency and accountability. And if push comes to shove, witnesses are subpoenaed in France. Zahid Hamidi, our defense minister, has already agreed to make himself available to go. And we need to push for that kind of accountability to happen. We need to know what happened to all that money. The money amounts to close to 500 million ringgit. Okay? It's big money. And the explanation given was it was for training and support services. Training and support services was the answer given in Parliament. And training and support services was not broken down beyond that. So where did the money actually go to? And who were the recipients? Who actually enjoyed the benefits of such a sale? And why was it necessary to even pay out the 114 million? It's your money. It's my money. But we have no say as to why it's being paid out to whom and why certain persons need to enjoy benefits from such sales.
And our local press can also do something else, which is to look at Perimeter's accounts at the time it got the contract. You find that this company does not really have the means or the experience or the expertise to undertake such a contract of servicing a submarine contract. That's what the local press can do, and ask the President, Prime Minister, or the Defence Minister this question. Actually, I do not even know if 100,000 is enough. Once a few years ago, in 1996, I filed an election petition to challenge the disqualification of my election in 1995. And before the case even started, in the morning, I had to pay 10,000 in legal fees. In this case, I really don't think 100,000 ringgit is going to cover the French legal fees.
Up to now, pro bono, but when it goes up, the legal fees will mount. So that question of whether it's enough, how much, is it's just a startup fund. Actually, we will need to raise even more money as the case progresses. But for this target, we're hoping to get 100,000 ringgit, which is actually nothing in euros. It's about 25k euro, probably just enough to do the first filing. And then we need to come back to you again. Please donate, please be generous. So we'll actually be setting up proper details and how the money is going to be used for what and all that. Because Swaram promotes transparency and accountability. Actually, some of the Pakatan Rakyat MPs have been very consistent in actually posing questions in Parliament in the last few sittings. And there have been some answers that were provided by the Defence Ministry, but as I mentioned just now, there have also been many inconsistencies, especially with the price and the amount of the actual purchase of the submarines. And then they forget to add the maintenance fee and, all kinds of things. So there have been, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the parliamentarians in the June sitting will be asking further questions with relation to the latest findings, the extra commissions and so on. So your point is absolutely important, that we need to build on the momentum. And it's so far been rather low profile also because the case at the inquiry level is closed and we couldn't divulge too much information without having documents in our hands and so on. So we're here at this stage where we need to start profiling the case in the way that it deserves the attention for what it's worth. We've had several dialogues with them, and they're very concerned and have also told us that they will wait for the formal announcement of the open investigation to take place at the open courts before looking at the issue further here. But Transparency International France has been very, very active in France in working with our lawyers and in working with non-governmental organizations over there to actually push this case along. Push the case of VCNS for transparency and accountability and how they deal with third world countries in sale and procurement.
Our local mainstream press, which is the government has tried very hard to ban the very mention of Alton Tuya, and even 2 books have been banned because of the mention of Alton Tuya. The government always tells our people, you must think outside the box. And 2 people, former bodyguards of the Prime Minister, have murdered this Alton Tuya. And what is the motive? If you think outside the box, you want to ask what's the motive for these people to kill. And you find that even in the court case, the motive and the very mention of Alton Tuya and the Prime Minister is seriously taken out of the case. Not only by the prosecution, but even by the defense. It is very surprised. Yeah. You can imagine the prosecution being concerned to keep all these out of the case. But both sides were concerned to keep out of the case. So this is very interesting. So it's a whole credibility of the mainstream press, because as this case proceeds, the whole thing is going to blow up in our face. You have to know the case from the beginning, what's going on now. You can't simply have an explosion at the end without letting the readers know what has gone on before and what are the details. So maybe today is a good beginning. Like I always like to say, we have to have a beginning somewhere. Never mind the past. Let the readers in Malaysia know what's happening and get them involved in the case.
We need voices from across the spectrum to actually start demanding in a louder, more collective way for answers to be made known and the truth to be known. So thank you again for attending this press conference, and we will keep you informed on the details of the dinner. Please do not forget to highlight the need for fundraising. And details of the dinner and details of the tickets and all will be made available very soon. Thank you.